Hello, everyone. This is Keith Lubner, and with me today is a really good friend of mine, Ken Thoreson. Ken is president of Acumen Management, and Ken and I have known each other for a really long time, and we've done a lot of great work with each other. Ken, welcome, and as we get started here, please give the audience, give everybody that's going to listen to this podcast a sense as to who Ken is, what he's all about, and his background. Ken?
Well, besides being a chef, I've worked in the channel for my whole life. I actually started working for a channel partner and spent about 8 or 9 years there as a sales manager and running that organization. And then I moved into the vendor world and actually worked for a major software company where we sold through the channel. And I was vice president of sales there. So we managed channel partners, been a channel partner, have a perspective of both sides. And then for the last 20 years, this is our 20th year in business, we've been focused around the partner organization, the vendor and the distributor organization, and how to drive revenue through strategic sales management.
That's great. That's great. I think a lot of people on this podcast could absolutely use the services that your company has. Congratulations on 20 years. That's a phenomenal accomplishment.
Crazy.
Let's shift a little bit here. Let's focus on the partner environment. What challenges do you see today that most partners are facing, and why?
Well, they're facing a variety of issues. I think there's certainly an abundance of potential vendors. Many times partners end up with too many vendors, or they're slicing their time based around the vendor. So sometimes I think in tough markets, you're better off having selected focus, either from a product perspective, a professional service perspective, and within perhaps a vertical market, because the way you compete today has to be on what value you bring. Because of the commoditization of products and services and the number of vendors offering varieties of services, it's hard for that partner to be able to be a specialist from a technology perspective in each of those areas, but also from a business process.
Yeah, really good point. Tell me though, what separates from a profitability perspective those better performing partners and those partners that they're just not performing well? What have you seen?
Attention to detail. And I'll tell you a story about a client of ours, a very successful client, multiple offices, large client, large vendors that they represent, and they represent a large geographic area. They pay attention to the details from their prospecting marketing machine, all the metrics and things that they track from that perspective. From a sales-driven organization, they pay attention to the activity levels, the client relationships that they have. They pay attention to the details from a management team perspective. Now, that's a large partner. At a small partner perspective, that can also work. But I see some small partners, 5 employees, 25 employees, 40 employees. By the way, those are the 3 breakpoints where we see partners start to struggle at about 25 employees and 40 employees. They fail to put in systems, or they fail to functionally have the discipline to manage those systems. We call it operationalizing the details. They have to pay attention to how your employees are performing. The last thing I'll say about that is that the ones that are very successful have built an emotional relationship with their employees. I wrote a blog called Building Belief and the Intensity of Sales Leadership and the Emotional Side of Leadership. That's paying attention to the details that your employees love your company, love your products or services, and that they understand what your products and services do for your customers. And so the attention to detail tactically and attention to detail emotionally becomes a critical success factor.
It's interesting you say that. We talk, as you know, we talk a lot about emotional intelligence and the absolute power of all of that. When it comes to those partners that are failing or about to fail, what do you see some of the symptoms of these partners, either ahead of the failure or ones that are already in failure?
Well, interesting you asked me that question. I was just talking to someone else the other day about a blog I wrote called The Broken Organization. And it's funny you asked me that question. It's when you talk to the president of a company that's about to fail or is failing, he or she will talk about their employees using the word they. They don't seem to work. They don't seem to care. They don't seem to learn the products and services. Then you take to the next level and you interview some of the managers at the next level. and you see a dividance between the employee and the manager. Again, using the terms they or they don't do this, they're focused on the negatives. And then when you get down to the employees and you talk to the employees, emotionally, they're not connected to the company. They're complaining that management is micromanaging them, always on top of them, belittling them, working with the inability of the people to feel a sense of mission. One of the things that's important to understand leadership versus management is the leadership issue. That leader has to communicate the vision of the company and reinforce the belief, the emotion, the context of why we're in business and what we do and what we serve and what we stand for. What's the philosophical statement? Failing companies fail to link their employees to the business.
So you were touching on something really interesting there. What can a president, a CEO, a channel chief sometimes, what can they do to rectify this? What are some of the things that they can put in place that could start alleviating these symptoms? Because you described many of them, and I see them all the time too.
Well, as a channel chief, someone who's managing that channel or involved daily, whether you're a territory manager managing multiple partners or you're at a vice president level, it's the same thing as if you're running a partner organization. Mm-hmm. It's the element of what you're doing for others, but also some of the tactical things that I like to recommend is that once a month, the partner organization should have an employee meeting, whether it's online using a tool like this or whether it's 20 people in a conference room. And it gives the president of the company the opportunity to talk about and reinforce the philosophy, the value, the vision that you're bringing. Number two, we like to recommend that you bring a happy customer into that meeting, a customer that you've done some outstanding work for, and ask them to speak about what your product or service did for them, what impact it was in their business. Find out what happens. It's important for your employees, whether you're in the administration department, you're in the technical or professional service area, or you're a salesperson, to hear from your customers about what you're doing. Some people will actually take their employees and go visit the customer, get a tour of the factory, the distribution warehouse, the professional service organization.
I love that concept.
And get a feel of what you do. I always like to say it's important to understand your customers and why your customers buy from them. And the value you bring should help them do a better job for their customers. Once they start to hear from multiple customers, that belief system starts to happen.
That's great advice, especially in this disconnected economy that we seem to be in right now, is getting back to the root of building that relationship. What a better way to do it than visit somebody, right?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.